Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and the good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south, in the land of the free and the home of the brave, on a beautiful September the 28th, 2020. Well, the Deportes. Bonjour, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, just want to say a happy end to Yom Kippur. And it's been a tough weekend for a couple of general managers out in Los Angeles, but it's always great to give a warm welcome and thanks to our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders, for the wonderful job that you do every day.
They do a great job every day. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. And also all around the world, just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love taking the Big C pause. Everybody's pausing in life, Big C, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, it's so important, Charlton, even though your buddy Donald Trump took a pause at his press conference and walked away today, just like he's walked away from the security of our veterans of this great country, Charlton, who have served this country so admirably. He called them suckers and losers. But, Charlton, they went out and served this country.
Yeah.
And this country has not done the favor in serving them once they've come back. Many of our veterans suffer from mental and physical illness and duress, Charlton. We lose a couple dozen every day to suicide. Think about how many we've lost to this pandemic of COVID. I know we've lost thousands of veterans to that.
Yeah.
We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, because we care about our veterans as we want the rest of America to try to find ways to help them out.
Yeah.
And not just the veterans, but private citizens suffer from mental illness also, Charlton. So the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is a way to help all Americans, and especially our veterans.
Yeah, I love giving out the message, basically 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid. When you reach out to them, just tell them Big C sent you. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country to put people back to work. McDonald's does it. Car dealerships do it. Sports teams are doing it too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com and get a hold of opportunities. Big C, I know we had a lot of football over the weekend, basketball, baseball. It's like everything is happening. But I got to tell you something. I want to ask you a favor. There's a little thing I heard growing up as a little boy. Knock, knock. Who's there? Donald. Donald who? Can you loan me $400 million, Big C? I'll pay you back in 4 more years, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think most of the country has always known that he's a liar and a three-card monster player.
Yeah.
And, he's lied for years saying he can't release his taxes because he's under audit. You can release your taxes when you're under audit.
Yeah.
The reason why he's under audit is because he got a $79 million tax return 1 year from the IRS, as well as a $10 million tax from the IRS.
Right.
But if you're paying $750 in federal income tax,
Wow.
and you're stating the amount of wealth that he has, and you got to look at yourself as an American citizen, and look at line 63 on your tax return, and see how much federal income tax you paid as an individual, as a blue collar, as a white collar employee here in the United States. But for him to only pay $750 in income tax, that's fraud and theft and income tax evasion. And so when you look at that, you know, what he's doing to the American public and saying that it's acceptable, I don't know how anybody can believe anything he does. And he's cutting deals with all these foreign leaders that he's in debt to.
Yeah, his daughter got some deals going on with Saudi Arabia. That's why when they killed that media guy, Trump said, no, they didn't do it. They said they didn't do it. He got some deals going on in Russia. We all know that he's dealing with Russia. That's why he won't say anything bad about Putin.
He just cut a deal with Erdogan of Turkey a week or so ago, where he got $72 million out of the deal.
Yeah. You know what's funny? You know how he went down to Atlanta last week, and he told the black pastors he's going to do a plan for financial... He's going to do a black empowerment plan. And he only pays $750 in taxes. Where's he going to get the money?
Well, I mean, you think about when we talk about the federal government and how it supports its programs within this country.
Yeah.
It comes from people paying their fair share of tax.
That's right.
So when he gave that tax break to the rich, he was not only giving it to them, but he was giving it to himself. It was him in the front of mind when he cut that deal.
Yeah.
But you're going to pay your daughter $750,000 in consultant fees.
Yeah.
For what? You know, you're paying your daughter. That's your daughter. So you got to pay her $750,000 to talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, this is a scam.
Yeah, we know it's a scam, but and people say, you know, what if the Attorney General William Barr said there's no racism in this country, but the law doesn't treat black and white people the same because Donald Trump's not going to jail yet. There's a reason they're trying to get his Supreme Court nominee to try to exonerate him from a lot of things going on. But I want to bring something up before we get into some NFL scores because, you know, I love not being a sycophant, just reading somebody the score. And this is going all over the country. California Governor Gavin Newsom, some people are saying he's stalling. Even Ice Cube is talking about it, that he's stalling on signing the California reparations bill. And people can call and tweet. It's called AB3121 to study how to make black America and the American descendants of slaves whole for aiding and abetting slavery. It's already in the governor's book. It's already passed the California State Senate. It just needs the governor's signature. So Gavin Newsom, I know you asked for a lot of votes. The Senate's done their part. They've already passed it, so you can do yours. And this was brought to you by Kim Mims. She's part of the American Descendants of Slaves California Media on the YouTube channel. So I want to thank Kim for that. Big C, reparations will pass. If Donald Trump can get it, you know they can give it to black Americans. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Donald Trump is white, just like in his Supreme Court selection.
Yeah.
You know, his nominee, Amy Coney Barrett, you know, he said, if you listen to his press conference and the dog whistle that he said it will uphold our heritage.
Yeah.
Okay, our heritage. And the crowd that he had there at the White House in the Rose Garden was all white. He said it would uphold our heritage. And he will execute the Constitution the way it is written. And I keep telling you all the time, the way the Constitution is written is not written for black people. But as he sit there and you look at the crowd that was at the ceremony at the White House over the weekend, that crowd was all white except for her two adopted Haitian children, which he said came from S-hole country.
Yeah,
so he called the Supreme Court Justice children S-hole kids. And she still smiles and grins in his face.
Yeah, it is amazing. So what's Melania gonna do when she realizes he's broke? Number one, and number two, I think oftentimes when it's already passed the California State Senate, you know, California has a lot of African American. It's going to pass. Reparations will pass. It's just a lot of things are going to be a little bit topsy-turvy for the next coming weeks, it seems. I think we're about 36 days out from the election, I believe, 36 or 37, somewhere in there. I want to ask Americans, please get out and vote. You can text the word VOTE to 26797. That's text the word vote to 26797 and get registered. Tell all your friends that Big C in the NFL said, let's make this happen. Make this the biggest vote in the history of the universe. Man, it's a lot of good things going on. Big C, I want to run real quick. I know we have a good football game lined up tonight, already underway. Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, and it should be, in my opinion, a preview of the AFC Championship game if things go to form. But the bad thing that is raining in Baltimore, so that may slow down both of these quarterbacks a little bit. But give me your feeling going into tonight's game, and then we'll recap what happened over the weekend. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a game until Lamar Jackson beats Patrick Mahomes. It's never going to be a big game. I don't see this as being a preview of the AFC Championship. I don't think that, Baltimore will get there until they prove themselves in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson has never won a playoff game. And he's lost 3 regular season games in his history of starting in the NFL.
Yeah.
2 of them have been against Patrick Mahomes. So he hasn't shown that he can beat Mahomes. I mean, on paper, everything always looks great. But until, you get out on the field and execute, and people are saying this is the game of the week. No, the game of the week was played on Sunday.
Yeah.
2 of them. And so this is just, the capping of the weekend's game.
Yeah, I really hope that it's going to come down to the final possession. It seems like it should be. We've had that with Dallas. I mean, Minnesota and had their thing with Tennessee. A lot of people, even starting down in the desert in Arizona. Kyler Murray, just when I'm hyping Kyler Murray for how good he is, and he's going to be great, when you lose a game, don't lose a game to the Detroit Lions. Prater had a game-winning field goal as time expired on the clock down in the desert. And I believe that's the Lions' first win since October of 2019, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they had 11-game losing streak, Charlton. Even a blind squirrel will find an acorn every now and then. And that's what happened with the Lions.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cardinals made some mistakes on offense. We've always praised their offense. And as I said, going into the game over the weekend, is that their defense is where they needed to play better.
Yeah.
Their defense has not upheld their end of the bargain. Kyler Murray has made some spectacular plays, and that's what has allowed them to start the season 2-0. But if you're not playing defense, it will eventually catch up with you, and that's what happened to the Cardinals, and Matthew Stafford was due for a victory.
Yeah, and Murray has 3 interceptions in one game. He had only 2 coming in after 2 entire games. So maybe he spent little time down in Vegas. So I'm just being cynical, but maybe he really went down to Vegas losing to the Lions. Can anyone, I know you like to cook. And from what I understand, you don't like a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And I think Russell Wilson doesn't like a lot of cooks in the kitchen. They have a thing called #LetRussCook. Russell Wilson, he was in full force this weekend. DK Metcalf, don't celebrate until you cross the goal line. The Seahawks don't have a defense, but my goodness, their offense is amazing. And I think their brother's thrown 14 touchdowns in 3 games, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's not even about the defense in Seattle. It's about the coach, Pete Carroll. When you look at what Pete Carroll has to do with smoke and mirrors, he had to bring up 3 starters off of the practice rosters for this weekend game.
Yeah.
And that shows the impact of what coaching can do in football. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, you talk about Seattle doesn't have a defense.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys leave their defense on the bus when they get to the stadium.
Yeah.
They send the offense out there to play both sides of the ball like a lot of kids do in high school when they have to play both ways. It seems like that's what's going on in Dallas.
Yeah.
When you think about their best defensive player right now, Aldon Smith, hasn't played football in 5 years.
No, he's amazing.
That lets you know how weak the Dallas defense is in going out there trying to stop their opponents. Dak Prescott is doing all that Dak Prescott can do to win a football game. 474 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. That normally gets you a victory in a football game. But when your defense on the season is giving up more points than your offense has scored, that's the reason why you 1-2. Russell Wilson, 14 touchdown passes on the season.
Amazing.
That's the most in NFL history through 3 games.
Yeah.
So you think about the torrid pace that he's on. He actually should have had 6 in this game.
Yeah.
But DK Metcalf got the hot dog and then got the ball knocked away from him. I can guarantee you with all those arms and muscles, he'll hold on to him from now on.
Yeah. You hold on to the ball, do it, do all that stuff after you cross the goal line, the back of the end zone, not the front of the end zone. But hey, he's a young man, he'll learn. Dak Prescott, Big C, he's thrown for 450 yards last week against Atlanta, and now 470 yards against Seattle. It's a shame that it's always coming from behind, but he looks like he is such a solid and good passer. The last interception with 8 seconds left, I mean, give that to anybody because they were in desperate mode. But I'm so impressed with Dak Prescott. Anyone can throw the ball when you have the lead in a solid defense, but they're doing it with no defense at all, it seems. Give me your feeling on Dak Prescott. He's wasting his time in Dallas, it seems.
Well, no, he's not wasting his time in Dallas. It's just Mike McCarthy knows nothing about defense. This is what Dak Prescott has been since he's been in the NFL. You think about last year was his most productive year ever as a quarterback in the NFL, and this year he's ahead of that pace. This is Mike McCarthy's inability to coach defense.
Yeah, it seems like it, but McCarthy got the job because his friend Jerry Jones wanted him to have the job. But I'm really impressed with Dallas has some solid receivers. They really have a good team. They just need that defense, that doomsday defense to show up again. And I don't know if what's going to happen for them anytime soon. But I want to get your thoughts on something, too. Because just watching games over the weekend, I didn't get to see all of them, but just watching a lot on the DVR, I want to get your feeling on something. Now, I might be a little bit cynical, but I was saying when it comes to the Rams going across the country in an early game, McVay was 5-0, as you mentioned, in early games on the East Coast. Now, I know people don't believe in Vegas, and maybe I'm cynical. But when the Rams were I believe they were a 2.5-point dog, and then they were whipping up on Buffalo when they came back and stopped whipping up on them. They go and take the lead. Buffalo comes back and wins by 3 with about 15 seconds left. And it seems, what do the guys in Vegas know that we don't know, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, evidently they know an NFL official because that interference call was called late against the Rams.
What a joke!
On that play call was not interference. I mean, the ball was uncatchable, and you couldn't tell whether that was a block that the receiver was throwing downfield or trying to get away from the DB. But that's one of those flags you don't throw, you throw. Or if you do throw it, you pick it up. But you also got to give some credit to Buffalo. This is a team that is 3-0 on the start of the season. And when you think about Josh Allen, he's the second leading passer in the NFL yardage-wise behind Dak Prescott. But he has 3 victories, and Dak Prescott only has 1. But, Stephon Diggs has really made an impact in this Buffalo offense.
Yeah.
And Singleton has done a solid job running the ball. But that defense has played up to par when you think about what Buffalo has done defensively.
Yeah.
They spent the last 2 years building up that defense, and McDermott has gotten them playing football.
Yeah, that was a great game, but it felt like, what does Las Vegas know? Prop betting, when they come from behind, etc. It's all fair and love and war. I want to go to that same division because when you look at Sam Darnold, Big C, for the New York Jets, he throws off the game with a pick 6. And, I've been pulling for this kid because he came out of the Troy University of Southern California. And I was asking you, what kind of NFL team has a double-digit deficit point spread going into the game, and they lost by several double digits? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that's the Jets, and the Jets just means just in the season soon, and that's the moniker of the New York Jets.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a team, when you talk about inept in the NFL, and that's from the head coach all the way through the players.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing there that shows that they're an NFL team. I have not seen any development from Sam Darnold in his 3 years in the NFL. It seems like he's declined more than he's ascended since being in the NFL. And everybody is always wanting to blame a receiver, saying, well, they got to help the quarterback out. Well, when you throw it to a wide-open defensive back twice in the game and you got 2 pick six, those are touchdown passes that you threw.
Yeah.
And that's part of your bonus thing that you throw touchdown passes.
Yeah.
They just have to be to a team that was wearing blue. The New York Jets could be the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Period. Hands down. Adam Gates, they make it one more game. They got a game Thursday night, I believe, against the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
The Denver Broncos are going to come in there with backup quarterback. And if the Denver Broncos wins this game, Adam Gates won't see the weekend in New York.
Yeah, he is the big apple. It might be what he'll be eating if he don't win a game, Big Z. I want to ask you about Nick Foles. Old St. Nick, he does it again. Has a reputation for this kind of things. Led another incredible comeback victory. And you think about it, the Falcons, you ever cut the wings off of a falcon? Sometimes they tend to fall out of the sky, Big Z. Your thoughts?
Well, the most disappointing person in that game, Charlton, was Doug Peterson.
Yeah.
He was coaching in Philadelphia. He was the most disappointed because he was hoping that Trubisky could keep his winning streak going and he could ask the Bears to make a trade with him for Nick Foles and send him back to where he had won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But when you think about what Nick Foles did in that game, I mean, the real problem is the Atlanta Falcons, Charlton. This was a team that last year started off 1-7. And Dan Quinn made some changes with the coaching staff. They ended up 6-2 in the second half of the season. But there's no hope right now for the Atlanta Falcons. They're the first team in NFL history to have back-to-back double-digit leads going into the fourth quarter by at least 15 points, Charlton, and lose games. And they've done that in consecutive weeks to the Cowboys and now to the Bears. Nick Foles was miraculous. This has become his history in coming off the bench in the NFL. Now the Bears have named him the starter. But when you look at Atlanta, Atlanta's an archaic NFL team. Dan Quinn thought that he could go to Atlanta and play the same type of defense that he played when he was the defensive coordinator in Seattle. The problem is he didn't have that same type of personnel. And then you have Matt Ryan at quarterback. Matt Ryan is archaic because he's unmobile. And the NFL has changed beyond Matt Ryan. You can have a big arm, you got to have some legs to support it.
Why hasn't the NFL, well, you just named it, but why haven't they seen that? And you look at guys that are winning, or at least, I mean, going based on last year, Wilson, Mahomes, Jackson, Watson, guys that can roll around, even Aaron Rodgers, he's mobile too. Guys that can get outside of the pocket. That stand in the pocket, being a 6'5" guy that can't run, that seems like old. It's like old and out of touch. Even Big Ben, he can't get out of the pocket, but they got a good old line so far. When are we going to see that turn in the NFL where that kind of quarterback who can't run is no longer a draft pick? Big, so your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you got to look at what the NFL has been built on forever. Big white quarterbacks sitting in the pocket. You think about the night game in Baltimore that you alluded to. The NFL having to go out and market marquee black quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't even know if the NFL is ready for that. You have no choice but to do it. Last week when we talked about 10 black starting quarterbacks in the NFL, and now when you look at marquee games, is that you're having to use black quarterbacks as your moniker. Look it up in Seattle yesterday with Dak and Russell. You had to market those two black quarterbacks in probably the best game of the day. And now you're going to the final game of the weekend, and you have to market Lamar Jackson and Mr. Mahomes on a Monday night. I mean, so what do you do instead of playing Frank Sinatra music? You got to play rap music to talk about these quarterbacks now?
It's interesting you bring that up because our whole society has fought against black excellence. We've already heard books about the miseducation of the Negro. We've been taught Eurocentric history, not Afrocentric history. And we're told that when black men speak up too much, they're being, they're threatening or they're terrorists because they're asking for liberty and justice for all. There's always been that pushback. They're not smart enough to lead a team, and they don't have the leadership capability. Or they'll say, as an insult to black men, he's football smart. He has a high football IQ. It takes a lot to read defenses and understand what the offense is doing and where everybody's supposed to be. In the Seattle and Dallas game, Dak Prescott set a record for the most yards he's ever thrown in his history. And then also Wilson, the most touchdowns in 3 games, 14 than any quarterback in the history of the NFL. And they both have gotten pushback from mainstream media. Big C, your thoughts?
You're always going to get pushback. You got to understand, Charlton. You like the guy who looks like you. This is the reason why we don't get more black coaches in sports. And the fight back over the decades about the black quarterback is that they're too mobile. They create problems for what we've become a mainstay for. And so they change up all of what we created over the years. I mean, black quarterbacks have been around since the 60s. They've always found other positions for them to play. When you look at the NFL Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame has more black quarterbacks, former black quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame playing wide receiver and defensive back than they do have black quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame.
It's amazing. I mean, that is really amazing when guys were just dominating the league at their position in college. All of a sudden, they go to the NFL against guys they dominated in college, and they're told, these are not the droids we're looking for based on Star Wars, if that makes any sense to you. I want to also stick to the East Coast for a moment. Now, you may disagree with me, but I'm telling you, in the 49ers, I've been saying it for a long time, that Mullins is a better quarterback than Garoppolo. And I think he showed that. Threw for over 300 yards easily. Not the kind of 300 yards where you throw a 5-yard out and the running back runs at 80 yards to the house, but 300 yards by moving around in the pocket, creating open passing lanes with, not like Russell Wilson, maybe a cheap kind of Russell Wilson, but he's mobile. He's not costing you $137 million on your salary, Big C. And he's 2-1 as a starter for the 49ers because when he came in and completed for Garoppolo and then beating the Giants. The Giants not a good team, but 300 yards is 300 yards, and it's the way that he plays. I think they should have realized that last year, but do you think they're realizing it now or no? Your thoughts?
Well, they've known it ever since he's been on the roster, but when you make a trade and you give up a lot to get an individual because the way he performed with another team and another system, you're thinking that you can get the same out of him. I think the 49ers were stuck on Garoppolo because he was a part of that New England team that beat the Falcons when Shanahan was the offensive coordinator in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And he thought that he could come in and bring him that same type of offensive moxie that he had in New England.
Yeah.
I mean, he was successful last year as a quarterback. You think he got him to the Super Bowl. He had the best record in all the NFL. You know, so you think about that he did deliver. It's just that everybody's not going to be sharp every game. I mean, everybody can have a bad day. It just happened to be his worst day was in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I still think Mullen's a better quarterback, but that's my opinion. I want to take you also to the Vikings. I feel bad for your cousin, Kirk Cousins, Big C. I don't feel bad when he goes to the bank. He got $84 million. I'm not saying it's his fault, but they did get rid of the best receiver they had because they didn't like the receiver, a black man, telling a white guy, you're messing up. You know, you got to lead me. I'm open. You got to throw it to my pocket. You know, throw it in the pocket if that makes sense to you. But you think about it. Brandon Cooks finds a crease, takes it to the house. But the Vikings are still winless. I mean, they found a way to lose another game, and they lost a game at home to, I mean, it doesn't seem like, I don't even want to blame Cousins, but he's the guy making all the money. But what do the Vikings have to do when they can't seem to get a win? This team was in the NFC playoffs last year, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Jordan Jefferson had an outstanding game, the rookie wide receiver out of LSU. I mean, it comes down to the quarterback. I mean, everybody wants to blame in the media everybody else on the team other than the white quarterback who is being inept. This is the team that made it to the NFC final last year.
Yeah.
They're 0-3 to start the season. The quarterback is still the same guy. If you look at his point production in the NFC final against the 49ers, I think they scored one touchdown.
Yeah.
They scored one time. 49ers.
Yeah.
And so you look, this is a carryover from where he was in the season last year. They lucked up on the Saints with a push-off from Rudolph in the end zone.
Yep.
That's how they got their playoff victory. But Cousins is what Cousins is. He's really what he is. I mean, people got hung up on him because he played under the franchise tag and got the richest contract and guaranteed in history when he signed with the Vikings.
Yeah.
But this is his true colors. I mean, what did he do in his first year with the Vikings? They didn't make the playoffs.
Yep.
They made the playoffs in his second year. And it went to his head. Now he's back to being Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And maybe this is why you keep that picture of him up on your fireplace, man.
I keep a picture of the dollar bill, Big C. It's all fair. I want the $84 million, too. Before we get into the Big C pause, Dwayne Haskins, you know, they strike first. The Washington football team entered with week 3, a massive underdog. And the Browns, you know, they realize they have some really good running backs in the backfield. And when Baker Mayfield is a lot better when they hand the ball off. They have a run-heavy game, over 100 yards from the running back. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Cleveland is a team that's running back first.
Yeah.
They got the best tandem of running backs in the NFL. And if Baker Mayfield allows them to run, then they're going to be successful. But when he thinks he has to be the face of the franchise, this is a team that's a sub-500 team.
Yeah.
But as long as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is carrying the mail, those receivers are secondary because they can control the ball on the ground, and that allows your defense time to rest. And you see a great game that Myles Garrett had as well as the secondary.
Yeah.
That's because the defense wasn't on the
They're
field all day because that great running game allowed them the time to rest.
No, Big C, very well said. Congratulations to Cleveland getting a win, and you better get a win over the Washington football team. They don't even have a name. I want to call them the Washington Red Tails. We'll take a Big C pause. We'll be back in just a moment talking about some more of some NFL football. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcast, Spotify. I really appreciate the way things are going. I look at the Houston Texans. They also got rid of Hopkins down to Arizona. And then you think about it, the Texans had a lead in Pittsburgh, of all places. Randall Cobb got it rolling with his new team, gave the Texans a huge boost in the first quarter. But it was a must-win game for the Texans, and I thought they were going to catch the Steelers napping, but the Steelers, with that steel curtain defense, they tightened up and found a way to run their way into a win. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you talk about another team that was in the playoffs that's 0-3, and that's the Houston Texans. It's not about their offensive inability to score, Charlton. It's about their defense inability to stop anybody.
Yeah.
People will look at Hopkins being gone, but they still put 3 touchdowns up on the scoreboard. But their defense gave up 4. And if you look at shabby tackling in the secondary for the Texans, that's the reason why it's struggling. It's not that Deshaun Watson is not playing decent football. Is that you're averaging 21 points a game in the NFL. You should win.
Yeah,
but their defense is giving up 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, they should win games like that. I just want to cover a couple more NFL games. I know we got a lot of things going on. You have the Bengals. Man, the Eagles, I know people want to love on Carson Wentz, and I don't want to kick anybody when there's down, but if one person is causing the football team to lose because you're making the most money, and you love it when you win, but you hate it when you lose, and the Bengals going, and I would say they were looking for the first win in a long time. In overtime, neither team can score in overtime, but that's kind of a win for the Bengals when they get a tie at home on the road against last year's defending NFC East champions. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they won that by default, the NFC East last year.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals should have won this game. Carson Wentz is playing against Carson Wentz.
Yeah,
the guy has 5 interceptions in the first 3 games of the season. That's when you talk about Jameis Winston's 30 interceptions, that's what he's on the pace for this year to surpass that. Carson Wentz is struggling, and everybody wants to say, well, it's the offensive line, it's the receivers. I saw him throw into a couple of open defensive backs in the game.
Yeah.
So, you couldn't put that on the receivers when you hit the DB in stride.
Yep.
Carson Wentz hasn't showed me anything in the last 2 years that he's a bona fide NFL quarterback. They won the division last year, I believe, at 9-7.
Yeah.
And they struggled to get to 9-7. They did nothing in the playoffs. And now they're 0-2-1 to start the season. And Doug Peterson, people are questioning him. You don't have a solution. Like I said, the worst thing that happened to Doug Peterson over the weekend is that Nick Foles came off the bench in Atlanta for the Chicago Bears and won the game.
Yeah.
And so now he has no trade option.
Yeah, I think they know they let the wrong quarterback go, but sometimes they deal with the contract more than the talent. I want to take you back to a long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. There was a land called Foxborough, Massachusetts, where the Raiders last won in 1974, Big C. We know the Tuck rule, it was a fumble, we all know that. But the Raiders go back to New England. They were 2-0 in the season. The Patriots were 1-2. Cam Newton versus Derek Carr. Cam Newton outperformed him. I don't think he had the best game, but they realized they had to turn around and hand the ball off and win the game on the ground, and they did that. But that defense shut down the Raiders, and the Raiders got a late score. But what I saw was better coaching by Belichick over the $100 million man in Gruden. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Carr had a decent game. He's completed 74% of his passes. Just the New England Patriots defense is rounding into form. When you think about the New England Patriots as a team this year, this is a team that has 14 new players on the team.
Yeah.
They had 8 players that opted out. They had 6 players who left via free agency.
Yeah.
So there's 14 new players on this team. So you think about it. Only 8 started from a year before. So this is a team that's starting to get its legs.
Yeah.
That defense is starting to round into form like the defense that they had last year. Last year, their defense, in 8 games, all they needed to do was score 10 points, and they were going to win those games.
Yeah.
So Bill Belichick is being the genius that he always is. It's about his defense. Cam Newton is still playing efficient enough to win. He should get better as the season goes on, as he gets more adapt to their players.
Yep.
But that offensive line was the key to New England's victory. They rushed for over 200 yards in the game, And when you do that in the NFL,
you're
going to win.
Yeah, Cleveland, you guys get the hint? They rushed for over 200 yards, and they got the win. They didn't try to make Cam Newton throw for 400 yards, even though I think he'll have some of those games later this year. I want to take you out to L.A., SoFi Stadium. Many people say the most beautiful stadium in the NFL universe. I believe $5 billion, it should be the best stadium. The Panthers, they get their first win. Teddy Bridgewater. The Chargers, they fall to 1-2. In the game they could have won at the end with a trick play. But Herbert, not knocking them, had a pretty decent passing game. But this is a team that the Panthers were desperate for a win, and they found it against a rookie quarterback. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is one of the reasons why you don't start rookie quarterbacks unless you're absolutely forced to.
Yeah.
They don't understand and handle all the nuances of an NFL game, Charlton. There's so many different things that can come at you, and that's what Herbert is dealing with.
Yeah.
He has an outstanding receiving core that he can't get the ball to consistently. With all the tools around him, he should be playing much better. But, this was a big win for the Carolina Panthers. They came out and ran the ball against the Chargers, slowing down that pass rush, allowing Teddy Bridgewater, when he needed to, the time to pass. And that's what solid ground games do for you in the NFL.
Yeah. They're young teams. I think the Chargers are going to be fine. They may even challenge for the second spot in the AFC West behind the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to take you to two more games before I get into some NBA, some other things that are happening in the world of sports, Big C. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they go to 2-1 with Tom Brady, 6 Super Bowl championships with the Patriots, and they went into Denver, Rocky Mountain High. High. They should just say the Denver High. They don't need to be called the Denver Broncos anymore. But they beat down against John Elway and all of his great picks as a GM. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Denver Broncos are a team that's on the limb.
Yeah.
And so they don't even have a quarterback there without their top defensive linemen and receivers. So this is a team that's struggling. And they're going to struggle. They're going to be, that win a week from now. But when you think about Tampa Bay, they're number one in their division now, the NFC South. They're in first place alone.
Yeah.
They lost that opening game to the Saints, and they've gotten better each week. Brady hit 8 different receivers in this game.
Yeah.
And when you think about a Todd Bowles coach defense, they were one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL the second half of last season.
Yeah.
And they're one of the top defenses already again in the NFL here in 2020.
Yeah, I think they're looking good. I want to close out on the NFL, and when I look at the Green Bay Packers, now they're 3-0 on the season, and then you look at the Saints 1-2. I thought the Saints were in trouble when I saw them not being able to stop the Raiders' run, and look at how New England shut down the Raiders' ground attack. But I know Drew Brees wants to come back because he wants to stretch it as long as he can, the paychecks that he's getting from the Saints organization. But Aaron Rodgers looks like he's a better quarterback, and I thought that going into the game. But I noticed about Aaron Rodgers, he'll get outside the pocket and throw it. Drew Brees is kind of in the pocket and throwing it, and no one's knocking Drew Brees. He's put up as many yards as anybody in this game. But it was a trick play that cost them with Taysom Hill and just wasn't able to hold over the ball. Give me your feeling, Green Bay. They look very good. They didn't even have Devontae Adams. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Green Bay Packers are a much better offensive team than the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
The New Orleans Saints are struggling. They're without their top target when you think about Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
And they've had enough injuries to slow them down. But they haven't been able to stop anybody defensively. They could not stop the Raiders defensively, and they definitely couldn't stop the Green Bay Packers defensively.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is playing like an Aaron Rodgers from 10 years ago. He is an uncanny quarterback. This is what mobility does for you when you're a quarterback. He can throw off rhythm, and that's his greatest attribute.
Yeah.
And the receiving core that he has constantly stepped up.
Yeah, I was really impressed seeing an older guy doing his thing. It's like he got motivated by Love coming to town. You ever get motivated when Love comes to town, Big C? Your thoughts?
I always think what Love got to do with it.
What Love got to do with it makes you want to try a little bit harder, Big C. NFL Sunday made NFL history. Jennifer King, Collie Bronson, and Sarah Thompson. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you go back to that game that was played in Cleveland between Washington and the Browns, Charlton, this is the first time in history that 3 women were working full-time at an NFL game. The Browns had a coach on the sideline, Washington had a coach on the sideline, and
Yep.
we also had an NFL official. So these 3 women who have broken the gender barrier in a male-dominated league, Charlton, played integral parts in that game on Sunday in Cleveland.
Yeah, it's amazing that I'm not being silly, but you have 3 African American coaches in the NFL and 1 Hispanic, and then you have women making as many strides as African American men, who make up about 75% of the league. But it's all fair and love and war. I wish everybody the best. I also want to go on to something, because it was bothering me when I was learning about it. You know, the COVID-19, Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida, one of your friends, he's opened bars and restaurants in all facilities in Florida to full capacity without having to wear a mask. And he's doing it trying to make sure that the NFL and the Super Bowl will happen in Tampa in 2021. I don't think that's a good deal to open up everything. Big, so your thoughts?
Well, no, it's not, Charlton, but, you know, the COVID-19 rate is going to rise in the state of Florida, even though it has plummeted for the last week, because the governor is controlling the numbers. You know, they're not coming from the health department. So he can constantly say that the numbers are going down in Florida, trying to appease the NFL. But the NFL, if they have any sense of say-so in this matter, because they do their own testing, Charlton, they got to use some sense and sensibility, knowing that COVID is going to rise in a state, and there's 29 states right now that COVID is rising in, and Florida, you know, is going to say it's not rising there.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I love high school football. We would normally do our Big C's Friday Night Lights, and ESPN even shows high school football on television, but they won't have their broadcasters in the stadium. They'll have the high school kids out there cover them, but they won't dare put their broadcasters in the stadium. High school football, and people can Google this, the state of Utah was one of the smallest states in the country. You know, they home to the Utah Jazz, etc. But you look about the universities, primarily University of Utah, BYU, Utah State, and Weber State. They've had the high schools, Big C. There's only 430 high schools in the entire state of Utah. They have over 1,683 athletes that are quarantined in games that have been canceled and put on pause because they've been testing positive for COVID-19. They've quarantined 1,600 student athletes in one of the smallest states in the union, and people are saying, let's play ball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is what people are constantly saying, that COVID-19 is a hoax. And when you have the White House and the administration who really does not address the issue of COVID-19 any longer, Charlton, this is where the country will go. You know, they keep thinking that, you know, the more people that get it, you'll have this thing called herd immunity, which cannot exist because it will kill 6 to 7 million people if you allow herd immunity to develop in the United States.
Yeah.
But, you know, not being insensitive, people, but Charlton, it would be great if medical professionals, and I know this is something that they will never do because they take an oath to protect and serve life, Charlton, is that they can deny people who do not believe in the science, who will not wear a mask. That would be the greatest feat, to let these people know that attend these Trump rallies without these masks on and go to these bars without a mask on, say, hey, we don't believe in COVID-19, that you could deny them medical coverage. That would make people start putting on masks.
Yeah, it really would, but I don't know if this is going to work, Big C. I feel bad for the high school kids because oftentimes they're just going to listen to what their parents say, and sometimes parents get people in trouble. Before we touch on some NBA, college football, because they're playing when you have a small state. If a small state like Utah can have 1,600 people quarantined, these are minors. This is not some NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball player making a $100 million contract, Big C. These are minors. And I know it's going to happen in college, but college is going to hide it because college is making too much money to tell the story. College football, C.J. Castillo, Mississippi State, and then also Kyle Trask of Florida, they put the SEC football on notice, and Castillo was over in the Pac-12 and transferred down to Mississippi State. I guess they gave him a nice paperback, Big C. But, I mean, he set a school record over 600 yards passing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he had an outstanding opening day in the SEC along with Mike Leach in that air raid offense. You got to think about Costello. He never passed for more than 311 yards in a Pac-12 game. To get his first SEC game at Mississippi State, Charlton, against the defending champion LSU Tigers, he passed for a school record and conference record of 623 yards in one game, along with 5 touchdowns. So you talk about an outstanding coming out party for the newest Bulldogs, Charleston.
Yeah.
C.J. Costello was happy to lead the Pac-12. But then if you go down to Florida, University of Florida with the Gators and Kyle Trask, this was the first game that Kyle Trask has started, went into a season as a starting quarterback since he was a 9-year-old. So if you think about this kid had to wait from the time he was 9 years old to go into his senior season at the University of Florida as a starter.
Yeah.
And in that game, Charleston, he passed for 24 yards and 6 touchdowns. So when you talk about quarterbacks lighting it up in their first opening season start in SEC history, Charleston, those two quarterbacks are going to make waves in that conference.
Yeah, I think you're seeing why the Power 5, usually dominated by the SEC and the ACC and even the Big Ten, you see why they don't want the Pac-12 coming to the party. They don't want to see these defensive backs that are going to the NFL giving up 600 yards, passing them to one guy. Big, for your thoughts?
Well, these are all the guys from LSU. You think about LSU was the national championship team last year, Charleston, and what Joe Burrow was doing to everybody and just running up the score.
Yeah.
And I guess it's about fair play because that LSU defense gave up 44 points to Mississippi State.
Yeah, and they did that at home in the Swamp. I want to transition over to NBA basketball. Man, our show goes by way too fast. And I'm serious when I was asking you, can a brother get a hookup? When Donald Trump can get Vladimir Putin and the Royal Prince of Saudi Arabia to help him with $400 million, and then he's telling black folks down in Georgia, I'm going to do a black economic plan, like, where are you going to get the money? And that doesn't make any sense to me. It's all fair, love, and war. But I want to bring it to the NBA. There have been, Black Lives Matter written all over the basketball courts, but there's at least three black coaches that have been fired in the COVID-19 season since they resumed basketball for New Orleans, also Indiana. And now, would you believe Doc Rivers for the LA Clippers? Doc Rivers, he's out as a Los Angeles Clippers head coach after 7 seasons. He has a 27-32 playoff record with the team, but he has an NBA championship. He has great pedigree, but sometimes you stay some places a little bit too long. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charleston, he's had a couple teams that have been in position to make it to the NBA Finals, and they just haven't got it done. They had it a couple years ago when he had a loaded roster there with Griffin and the guard Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan and a couple other key players.
And now Kawhi.
Once again this year, they were favored to get there. And after a while, as an owner, you become a little disgruntled because you're making all the investments. And so Steve Ballmer felt that it was time to move on from Doc, and there'll be plenty of other opportunities for Doc in the NBA. But this wasn't a good weekend for general managers and coaches in Los Angeles. Mike Epler, who was the general manager of the Los Angeles Angels, he was terminated after 5 years from the baseball team. So when you think about being in L.A. and trying to hold on to a job, it's not the best place to be right now.
Yeah, a lot of guys been tossed around. A couple of guys have gotten jobs already. Billy Donovan got picked up by the Chicago Bulls, formerly with the OKC Thunder. There's a lot of things that are going to change. Steve Nash got his deal with the Brooklyn Nets. And then there's also, Mike D'Antonio, I guess he decided to leave the Rockets. I don't know if everybody's going to bounce around like musical chairs. Big C, Alvin Gentry, he got tossed. Everybody's going to have to land on their feet. But when you have several $1 million, it's a lot easier to do that. Big C, we have the NBA Finals are set in the bubble. I want to ask you, have you ever seen a more crazy season outside of the season being canceled because of a war, whether it's football or baseball or basketball? Down in the bubble, we finally have it all set, and you called it. I give you credit for that. I was saying Boston and LA because we have 17 championships for the Celtics, 16 for the Lakers. But you said this is about Pat Riley and LeBron James and Miami and LA, and I think you were right, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it is. I mean, when you think about this, and this is the first time in NBA history that you have two teams playing in the finals that did not even make the playoffs the previous season, Charleston, when you're talking about the Lakers and the Heat.
Yeah.
Pat Riley, you got to look at the team that he's assembled down there in Miami. I know a lot of people will look at the Lakers saying, well, they got the two superstars going into that. But when you look at that even-keel roster that's down there in Miami and how athletic they are, this is something that the Lakers have faced throughout the tournament down in Orlando.
Yeah.
The Lakers have been a team that's been hard to match up with. It's going to be hard for them to match up against the Heat when you think about the athleticism of the Heat's big men, plus the mobility of those guards that are shooting. And then when you get down to the fourth quarter, the game is close. Who does LeBron take? You can't say, okay, I can shut down this guy and it's going to limit their offense.
Yeah.
They've been an equal opportunity scoring team when you look at Miami. And Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo is a great matchup for him. This is a guy that can play him one up and not be out the fence.
Yeah, we're gonna try to clip your microphone also, Big C, but I'm looking forward to it. It really is something. The storyline is LeBron James going back to the guy that he also helped hoist some championship banners with Pat Riley. But Pat Riley's been doing this thing since he played for the Knicks and also Showtime in L.A. with Magic Johnson and Kareem and them good old boys. It's L.A. versus Miami, two of the most glamorous cities in the United States. It is East Coast, West Coast, and I think about everybody that loves to say basketball is it's a name game. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, or LeBron James and the Lakers, Shaq and Kobe and the Lakers. We all have heard that before. But growing up, I remember Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, East Coast, West Coast. Give me your feeling on why the Lakers have been so iconic over the years, and they've always been able to attract the best talent. And Miami is kind of in the same, they're built in the same mold from Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Pat Riley's been at the center of all of it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, if you look at more recent times, the Miami Heat have been more successful than the Los Angeles Lakers in the past decade and a half when you think about the success that they had. L.A. has always been a moniker team, all the way since back in the 70s when you had Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, and Wilt Chamberlain, and those players were playing. You think about Pat Riley. Pat Riley's won championships at every level. He won a championship as a player with the Lakers. He won a championship as a coach with the Lakers. He's won a championship as a coach with the Heat. He's won championships as management with the Heat. So this is a guy who understands it from both sides. But the Lakers have been about marketing. The Miami Heat have not been around as long as the Los Angeles Lakers have. And so when it came to television, the Lakers were always that team that you could put on television when you wanted a marquee market in Los Angeles, just like the New York Knicks used to be in the 70s and 80s. And even in the 90s, they were always on television because of the market share that they brought to the NBA. And if you look at the NBA in total, the teams that they've always marketed have been in large markets. Boston because of their heritage and championships. The Lakers because of the market size. The New York Knicks because of the market. But think about the New Jersey Nets right there in that same area as the Knicks, but they were never on television. You go around the country, the NBA did not put teams on television in equal capacity. You're looking for a 5-year run with the Golden State Warriors. They were always on television. Look how little the Toronto Raptors have been on television. They're the NBA defending champions. You don't get Milwaukee because other than having Giannis on television, but the Philadelphia 76ers, another large market you never got. So it came down with the NBA as far as marketing. Not who the teams were. It was just about marketing.
I think Rajon Rondo would play a big role in this champ. I guess they're looking for 17. Could you imagine if the Lakers get 17 championships to tie the Boston Celtics as the most all-time? It's incredible. LeBron James, 35 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists in a series-clinching win. Taking me back to the days that James Worthy also played for Showtime, 35 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists. I mean, it's just amazing how sometimes the present is equaling what we used to see in the past. There's just great players just changing names. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, but you got to look at LeBron in total. LeBron, when he went to Miami, he said that they would win 7 championships. Well, they only got 2 out of that run, Dalton. And LeBron only had 3 championships in what, 8 finals appearances, 9 finals. This will be his 9th, but he only has 3 championships in total. Will it end up being a 7th loss, Dalton, in the championship series?
Well, I'm telling you what, the whole sports universe with the tribute to Kobe Bryant tragically passing away in a helicopter in accident down in Southern California. And COVID-19 has just turned this country upside down. Over 204,000 deaths now because Donald Trump lied. Donald Trump lied, and we have over 204,000 fatalities to COVID-19. The story about the kids in Utah dealing with their tragedies, all based on COVID-19. And it's just part of what we all got to deal with. We got to deal with keeping our heads up and going forward in life and not trying to get, too sidetracked by things that are sad. Big C, I wish the Lakers and the Heat nothing but the best. I think it's going to be a good series. Some people are saying Lakers in 6. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 6. I'd be surprised if it went 7 because I really do believe that the NBA wants to crown the Lakers this year. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you got to look at the Heat. They're not just going to roll over, Charlton. This is a team that's hungry. You think about Eric Spoelstra. This is a guy with experience coaching championship games. Eric Spoelstra's won 2 titles as the coach in Miami.
Yeah.
So he understands how to defend LeBron James. Anthony Davis has never been a primetime player, so he's in rare water right now for him.
Yeah.
I like the young, enthusiasm of the Miami Heat because this is a team that's on the rise.
Yeah.
Nobody thought that they would be in this position. Everybody said the Lakers would be there.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you're the favorite and you're supposed to be there versus somebody who's not supposed to be there, you got to be cautious.
Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you what I learned about nature. When it gets too hot, you just put your foot in the water. Big C, I think the Lakers in 6 is my opinion. I also want to congratulate WNBA and the Seattle Storm are heading back to the finals yet again. They're waiting the winner of the Las Vegas Aces and the Connecticut Sun. Should be good action going on in the WNBA finals as well. Looking forward to that. NHL Hockey Stanley Cup Finals in beautiful Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And Tampa Bay Lightning, Big C, and the Dallas Stars. They're going to figure out who's going to hoist Lloyd Stanley's cup. And then I want to just go across to where Donald Trump goes over to Dubai, Saudi Arabia, when he wants to get $400 million. UFC 251. Israel Adesanya beat Pablo Costa and remains undefeated on Fight Island in Dubai. But speaking of Dubai and Donald Trump and money in the election, give me your feeling on this. And Donald Trump nominated his new Supreme Court justice and went on to say that she will protect our way of life based on the Constitution. Does the Constitution say that the president can lie, be in debt to the tune of $400 million, and use the White House to make money for his family? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's gotten away with it because those white guys that sit up in the Senate have allowed it. They understand the emolument clause and everything else that it includes, but they also understood that they were going to be making money as well as Donald Trump was going to be making money. So they all turned the mind's eye on American society for their personal wealth. And so when is enough enough? And so when politicians are in there making tens of millions of dollars,
yep,
and they're open men, they don't care about the layman blue-collar worker in America. Because when you say that you only paid $750
what a joke.
Like I told anybody, look on line 3 of your income tax return. And that you filed, and see how much money in taxes, federal taxes, that you paid. And here's a guy who claims to be one of the richest men in America.
Right.
And he's paying $750 in federal income tax. He lied about everything that he could being in the White House.
Yeah.
But 10 out of 15 years, he paid no federal income tax
None.
at all. And yet, in 1 year, he built the federal government out of $74.9 million in a federal income tax return.
Wow.
So you're not paying federal income tax, but yet you can get a return. And right before he ran for president, I believe around 2013, 2014, he got a $10 million return on federal income tax.
Yeah.
So if you can lie about what you're worth,
yeah, and
then you can build the federal government on what you're getting. This is the reason why he's doing what he's doing. And last week, like I said, he cut a deal with Erdogan from Turkey, a licensing deal.
Yeah.
And he got $2 million out of the deal to go in his pocket.
Yeah.
It's just like on the southern border with this wall down there. He awarded the contract to a country on the southern border wall that had never done a government contract before. He got them $1.8 billion. $1.8 billion, and the wall that they started building on has been eroding from the rains down there, the ground underneath it, because they've never built a large contract like that anywhere in America.
Yeah.
And so you think he didn't get a kickback out of that $1.8 billion when he demanded that this individual get the contract? And the guy was on 60 Minutes yesterday, said that they had back channels to the White House, and that's how they got the contract.
It's all fair. I guess that's called white privilege, Big C. When you guys go out and watch the games, I'm telling you, sports fans, eat the Big C burger. You got to ask for the Big C burger. It tastes ooh-yeah good. It is a tasty burger. You get exotic meats on your Big C burger and only on private menus at participating restaurants. Soccer in London, England. English Premier League, 10 players test positive COVID-19, so they're on pause, even though down in Florida, Governor DeSantis says it does not exist. Enjoy the games tonight. Major League Baseball starts this week also with the playoffs. It's all fair and love and war. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in this boys' universe?
Well, Charleston, we're going to have another team fall from the unbeaten ranks in the NFL tonight between the Ravens and the Chiefs. Will Lamar Jackson be able to get off the snide against Mr. Mahomes? But I also want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders for the wonderful job that you do. And don't forget, as American citizens, to give out that number for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number. The life you save may be one that you're well aware of.
Maybe one that you're well aware of. And I also want to say Happy Sons Day to all the sons out there in the universe. You can follow Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.